What's happening, friends? Trumpeter Bobby Spellman here. And you may be asking yourself, hey Bob, why are you in a tuxedo? Well, despite my generally gruff exterior, every once in a while I sneak myself into some fancy situations, and tonight I'm on my way to the Plaza Hotel for a gala celebrating the opening of the revival of Gypsy the Musical here in New York City. Now, this week, my goal was to begin our new series on jazz harmony and improvising over jazz standards, with a couple of episodes on some fundamental concepts in harmony and improvisation. However, I ran into a little bit of bad luck and I came down with a bad cold, and then I fell down all my stairs and broke my toe. And then my car broke down. So I had to deal with a couple of things this week, and I'm going to have to start the improvisation series in 2025. But do not fear, we're going to have a lot of fun, and I'm going to make sure that I get all the details in, and I make sure that I cover everything that I need to in those episodes, and we're going to have a lot of fun. In the meantime, I want to do a little throwback to a couple of interviews that I did a couple years ago. Way back in 2020, I started an interview series that was also a podcast entitled Jazztopia. In that series, I spoke with a number of great jazz musicians, improvisers, and composers, and I talked to them about their process of learning the music and approaching the music, as well as the history of their experience with the music and things of that nature. So I wanted to give you a couple of clips that came from that series. It started before the pandemic, but it was a little bit of a pandemic project because I could continue to do interviews while we were on hiatus from performances. So the first couple of clips that I want to give you for this holiday hiatus series here is from the great Dr. Eddie Henderson. And in this clip, Dr. Henderson will discuss the discipline required in order to be a trumpet player. And I'm going to throw a clip in there at the end talking about his advice for young jazz musicians coming up on the scene today. So if you want to check out more of that interview, you can search for Jazztopia and all the places that you find podcasts. And you can also find us on YouTube in the link down in the description to see the entire video interview with Dr. Henderson, as well as a series of other videos with many other jazz musicians. Someday in the not too distant future, I would love to revive that series. However, it's been a little bit I've been busy with the other projects I've been working on, and I've had to put that on the back burner. But if you follow that YouTube channel, I think before too long, I will resume doing video interviews with jazz musicians and improvisers and composers, because I really learned a lot from that series, and I think that you will too. So without further ado, here it is. A little clip from my interview with Dr. Eddie Henderson.
Theory with Bob.
There may be some people listening to this who are not aware of the inherent challenges of being a trumpet player, but that is not an easy instrument.
I think that playing the trumpet is one of the most difficult instruments, because if you play the drums, you have a stick, you hit the drum sounds like a drum. Play the piano, you push the key down, the piano sounds like a piano. A saxophone, you blow the mouthpiece, the reed vibrates, makes the sound. But with the trumpet, buzzing your lips into a steel mouthpiece, your lips makes it sound. So flesh against steel, which is going to give the quicker. Of course, the flesh, your lips get cut, your lips hurt, and so, and then plus it's just a challenging instrument over and above. With trumpet, I would say trombone also are the most difficult of the wind instruments to play.
Sure. So it must have you must have had a lot of discipline to be able to finish not only a medical degree, but at the same time also be playing trumpet on that high a level.
Yes. People ask, what is another aspect of my life that's very interesting when you mention the word discipline, is because at the age of 14, when I first moved to San Francisco, when my mother remarried, it was during the summer, I had no friends. So my parents took me to see the Ice Follies in San Francisco. And it's the first time I ever seen figure skating. And I was just enthralled by the sound of the blades going over the ice. And one of the stars that seemed to do these axle jumps, double axle, and the spinning. That intrigued me. And so even before I started high school, he gave lessons during that summer, and he was one of my first teachers. And I became fanatical about skating, and I became the first Black person on this planet to ever compete in figure skating championships. And wow. I've competed in the Pacific Championships. But the ironic thing is that since I was the first Black person to compete in those championships, it was sort of like Jackie Robinson in basketball. I ran into so much racial prejudice. Like in San Francisco, such a liberal city, they would not let me join the figure skating club because I was Black.
Wow.
So again, that just made me mad. So I went out of my way. I said, well, they won't let me in the club, I'm going to be better than them. You know. But ironically, right after my first year of college, I joined the Air Force, and I was still skating. I went and moved to Denver, Colorado, where they had a base there. And the Denver Figure Skating Club, with open arms, wanted me to represent them in their competitions. So I trained in Colorado Springs with the Olympic team, and I really became fanatic. I thought that was going to be my calling in life from age 14 to 21. I was on the ice every morning during high school, 5:30 in the morning, with just competitors, not public sessions. And during the summers, I was on the ice from, say, 5:30 in the morning until 10 o'clock at night. You know, all those double axles and triple southpaws, flank handles and stuff that you see. I was doing that in high school.
Wow.
Because, you know, my dream was I wanted to be in the ice follies. And then after I finished medical school and I was doing all these double act, I wanted to get a job with the ice follies, but all they let me do was scrape the ice on the intermission because I was Black, and they wouldn't allow me backstage with the ice folly girl because I was Black, you know.
Wow.
And so then finally, when I finished medical school, I went to see the ice follies and visit my first teacher, who was still a star, a gentleman named Richard Dwyer, wonderful skater. And by this time, they had a token Black skater in the ice follies. Now check this out. This is in 1968. Forget his name, but anyway, the mentality of the show then. He's dressed up in a red, white, and blue Uncle Sam costume with a big Uncle Sam hat, skating to Old Man River. You know, I said I wanted to be a part of that.
Sure.
But speaking of the ice skating, Miles Davis, one time my parents brought him to see one of my competitions. And with his sense of humor, I went to see him that night at the club, and he stuck poking fun at me in front of the musicians, and in his voice, he says, "Hey, Eddie, where's your skating skirt?" Yeah.
Stuff.
So I say all this to say, you mentioned the thing about discipline, about being a doctor, being a musician. I think there are three aspects of discipline in my life. Of course, figure skating takes discipline, hours and hours of practice, you know, because when you're doing those double and triple jumps, you have to have concentration and discipline, or else you're going to be upside down and land on your head.
Right.
It takes discipline at an early age from when you're studying music, because music teaches you symmetry and balance, teaches you math, 3/4 time, 5/4 time, 4/4 time, and the study of medicine discipline. You have to study accumulative knowledge every day. You can't cram it.
Right.
So my answer to people, well, how did you do all these three major things? I think that when you learn discipline at an early age, it's priceless, because it's hard to learn discipline when you get older, because there's so many more life distractions interfering. So I was very lucky. I had the figure skating, the music starting at 9 years old, and so after that discipline at an early age, medical school was a piece of a walk across the park. While other people were struggling, studying, sweating bullets to get through medical, it was a piece of cake.
That's amazing.
Because I knew how to study. You know, study habits, organization. There's a time to go to school. There's a time to practice your figure skating. There's a prime time to study after school, and then there's a time to go out at night. Because I would go out every night. I never missed a class in my life, but I would go out every night after school and after studying and playing music. And all the other medical students said, "Ooh, you're going to flunk out. You're going to jazz club." But I went to school every day. I wouldn't see these guys for 2 and 3 months. They'd be out partying. I never went to a party in college or medical school. I was so disciplined, figure skating early in the morning, always going to class, come right home from class, study, and then every night going out trying to execute, learning how to play quote unquote jazz.
Sure.
And so that kept my mind and my schedule busy. And these other guys who said I was going to flunk out, they flunked out because they didn't go to class.
Wow, that's amazing. That's
Yeah.
I think that's really important, that idea that if you start off with that kind of regimented discipline, that carries on with you for the rest of your
For
life.
the rest of your life. For the rest
Sure.
of your life.
And
Yeah. You have to start that at an early age, or it becomes second nature to your being.
Mhm.
You just can't acquire it later because you got to pay the rent, you got to get the car fixed, you got to go buy groceries. You know, you
Sure.
can't acquire discipline later.
All right, I often ask this, and I think you're going to have some insight on this. But I wonder
Okay.
if you have any advice for young musicians who are coming up into the music world, for ways that they can either find their own artistic voice, or ways that they can approach their career in music, or anything of that nature.
Yeah. That's really a wide open question. Because nowadays I see all these younger musicians going to different schools.
Mm-hmm.
Jazz schools, jazz institutions, and it kind of not bothers me. I'm concerned of they spend all these years of studying. In terms of after they graduate, the outlet for them to make a living concerns me. In terms of the way the world is nowadays, the opportunities and venues for them to make a living, because concert promoters, clubs, they don't want to hire you unless you have a name. Tours and stuff. You're not going to get a European tour just coming out of school, no records and stuff. So, and a lot of the students ask me, well, what should I do? And I'm kind of dumbfounded to give them a definite answer. I said, so I always ask them, are you in, I know all my students at Oberlin, I said, why do you like jazz? Why are you into jazz? Well, I like the way it makes me feel. That's a perfect answer. That's a good answer. Now, I said, now, are you in this field of music for fame and fortune, or because of the love of the art form? There's nothing against fame and fortune. I have nothing against that. Great if you get it. But if that's your motivation, then if you don't get it, you're in for an acute psychotic depression.
Sure.
But if you're in it for the love of the art form itself, that's priceless. You can't buy that. Well, whether you become famous or make $1 million is secondary. So I always advise young musicians, make sure that you're going into this endeavor because of the love of the art form itself. It's not guaranteed that you're going to become famous. It's not going to guaranteed that you're going to become rich. You might not. But the main primary goal, I think, to enrich your soul is for the love of the art form itself.
Yeah, I think that's great advice.
Yeah.